Live right here on SportsGrid. It is, of course, betting above the rim. Pro basketball today. I'm Kevin Walsh with Tom Vecchio, and we both have the pleasure, and you do as well, to now enter Coach's Corner.
Obviously, with retirement of Greg Popovich, as a coach, is someone that's watched the NBA for a long time. It's something that, it's an end of an era. We've talked about it in college with the NIL, but this has been completely different. What Pop has done, just looking at his record, obviously winning over 1,400 games, obviously the 5 NBA championships everyone's going to look at, and the way he navigated his team from the very beginning in '99 when he won their first title against my Knicks, with the ending of the David Robinson era, bringing in, obviously, Tim Duncan, and then obviously getting guys like Ginobili, getting guys like Tony Parker, role guys, Steve Kerr, Robert Horry, so on and so forth, getting a guy like Kawhi. It's really the totality of what this guy is. Top 15 greatest coaches of all time. It's funny. We were talking about this earlier, and we kind of got into, all right, well, let's take Red Auerbach out of it when there were 8 teams in the NBA. Where do we rank these coaches, right? Obviously, you look at Phil Jackson, number of championship rings he has. He probably is the number one after you look at Red. So then you get into Riley versus Pop. And you look at the fact that the Lakers won all their championships in that window, right? In between when he won his first one in '82, and then obviously when they got knocked out, and when they won their last one in '88. And then you get into his time with the Knicks, so on and so forth, and then the one ring he had with, obviously, Dwayne Wade. What Pop did in San Antonio, a small market team, has to be considered of why, as much as I love Riley, I have to take Greg Popovich over Riles. One franchise, through different eras, through different players, and the way that they had 22 straight seasons of over 500, they were competitive every year. And it's a shame that we lose someone like Pop now because of the fact of, well, he just got Wemby. And I thought that, and I think Kevin would agree I know we had talked about it in the past, is this guy was kind of on his way out. And then all of a sudden he got Wemby, and he looked, re-energized. But now where does San Antonio go after losing Greg Popovich with, his career? They pivot, okay, and they go to his top assistant. And they go to a guy that's been in the Spurs program, Mitch Johnson, for the last decade. He's been part of the franchise. Now, to me, as a coach, this is where I'm like, if Becky Hammon wasn't with the Las Vegas Aces, would this have been Becky Hammon? Would this have been the spot? But he did a pretty good job as the interim coach, taking over from November 2nd. And it sets up a pretty interesting part of what are we going to get out of San Antonio. You look at Wembanyama. Thank goodness he's healthy. Blood clot should be an issue. He should be back next year. We look at Stephon Castle, what he played. For the love of God, can we please not start Chris Paul all 82 games next year? Let's put Stephon Castle in the starting lineup and let the kid play 35 minutes a night, right? What do you get, out of Vassell? What do you get out of Keldon Johnson? What do you get out of some of these other guys? But is there a trade to be made? Are you looking at taking some of these guys and looking at, I don't know, Giannis becomes available? Another superstar becomes available? Do you go and give Mitch Johnson a chance, or do you stay with that Spurs culture and what they've built? It's been really interesting to watch what's going on in San Antonio, but it's also, for me as a coach, a thank you to Pop. A thank you to a coach that stood on what he believed in year in and year out. Never made changes. Never did anything differently than what he wanted to. And I think that's the thing, Kevin, that I look at as a coach is this is a guy that for 25 years was a model of consistency and excellence with the San Antonio Spurs.
100%. I think that's why it was important, Tom, to let Coach kind of, really explain to everyone just the impact that Greg Popovich had. And I think you look at Pop, who was with San Antonio forever. It's definitely a shame he wasn't able to have his last game type of thing, and do it in a ceremonial fashion. I know maybe he wouldn't want that. I'm sure the people of San Antonio would. But Pop started with the Spurs at the age of 40. Mitch Johnson is 38. And I do think people were surprised a little bit that the Spurs, which has to be considered the most potentially attractive job opening in basketball due to having Victor Wembanyama, didn't run through a full search process. They didn't interview a Michael Malone. They didn't interview a Taylor Jenkins, obviously both let go this season. And I think part of that for San Antonio is to bring this to football, they probably want to be Pittsburgh Steelers-esque. Steelers fans have had 3 head coaches in their lifetime. I imagine the Spurs are hoping that they can just go to Mitch Johnson now to be the guy for the next 2-3 decades, ideally.
That's what I was. That was my initial takeaway when I saw that he's been the interim coach when he was officially announced as a hire. To me, this just seemed like he was the heir apparent. Like Pop gave them the signs off on it, so to speak, and he gives them his the nod that that's who he thinks should be leading the team. Obviously, Pop is still involved, so I do like the fact that just from a legacy perspective, that he will probably have some type of ceremony, team president moving forward, whatever it might be, but. If Pop signs off on it, that's all they need. They don't need to do a full search. They don't need to have a Malone and bring him in there because if Pop obviously taught him, and so this is the guy that we want leading the team. We have a structure for the head coach and our dynasty player moving forward for the next 15, 20 years, whatever it might be. I think they're set up for success. Whether they make trades, whatever it might be. Again, this may be the most attractive job opening, but that was quickly taken away from everyone else.
Yeah, I think what becomes very interesting for the Spurs is, are they ready to push all in this offseason?
It depends on how you view them in the conference overall. That's what it comes down to.
Well, I think the answer to that, though, will be what level of player can they grab? If I tell you they win the Giannis sweepstakes, which the only players I could then guarantee on the roster would be Wemby, Giannis, and Fox.
Correct.
But if I tell you that they do win those sweepstakes, if you had to guess, yes or no, they would have top 4 odds to win the Western Conference.
I would say yes, but that doesn't mean that it's accurate. And it would be there because that the books would put it there in essence to protect themselves. That they're never going to hang an 18-1 number because there would just be too much money and be too much of a liability for the books at a certain point. Just because we don't agree with it where they actually sit in terms of the team dynamic and what we view the other teams as. A Minnesota, a Lakers are always going to be a popular option. Denver, whatever it might be, the Rockets, the Warriors. The Spurs may be there odds-wise. Doesn't mean that they're actually there.
Do you have some initial hesitations on the idea of that team just because we haven't seen it? Or
what, a Wemby, Giannis, Fox?
If I told you again that's that trio, I think that it's totally fair to say, they're going to have to be very careful where they hang that number. But if I told you they have the second best odds to win the West next year,
I would say that's egregious.
Off the top of my head, I think it might be accurate.
I think personally, them actually doing it, the second best odds would be egregious.
Why?
Because the odds would be there again for the books to protect themselves.
I understand that, but I think what I'm saying though is, if I really go through it in my head, if they land Giannis,
that is a monumental leap going from a lottery team to the second best odds.
But you are for sure. But you only had half a season of Wemby, not even that much of De'Aaron Fox. You're now adding not 82, but you're adding a full season of Giannis Antetokounmpo, and it also is then around the surroundings of the West. We'll go to the East next on SportsGrid.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors? like championship games or major matchups. My tip, try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
They've won 7 in a row. They've been dominant at Citi Field. Lindor's been insane. Pete Alonso's been raking.
You know, Griffin Canning, David Peterson, those guys have pitched really, really well. And when you put it together with that lineup, especially like you said, Lindor's been great. You know, they've got the makings of something very special in Queens.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Fans hate them. Like, kids go to Giant games and they're like, my father forces me to come, or my grandfather was a season ticket holder. Like, no one has fun. It's a miserable place to go.
The Giants' problem has always been over the last several years, and it's been the reason why Barkley never really got off, is the offensive line.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high, but the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that ring. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
A little flyer, couple of
15.5-point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Back right here on Sports Grid, Coach James Young rejoining us here at the desk. Let me just throw it your way quickly, Coach. We'll have a lot of time, I'm sure, to do this in the offseason. The thoughts on a potential Giannis-Wemby pairing in San Antonio?
I think it could work. I think the problem is that I need exceptional perimeter shooting around them, right? You know, I think rim protection defensively, I think to be good. I'm not concerned about getting posted up as much, although I do think, you know, Wemby's got to put on some weight. But to me, it's about the surrounding pieces around them, because you have a driver in Giannis that needs shooters around him. You could stretch out Wemby, but you need another shooter there.
I don't want to harm on this too much, but I also think my initial thoughts is I like this team like 10 times as much as you both. I know it doesn't even exist, but if they don't have one of the top 3 defenses in basketball, I would be stunned.
No, I agree.
Wemby can space the floor.
Right, but I think you need another shooter. I think when you talked about top 2, I think if they get him, they're going to be top 3 in the West. I actually think they're going to be way up there.
If they didn't win 50 games, Mitch Johnson might get fired after 1 year.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Michael Malone, he's trying to angle for that job. Maybe they'll hire Doc Rivers.
Maybe Pop will just step down.
Maybe you know, Pop will come back at that point.
That's what I'm saying. Pop will be like, you know what? I kind of like what I'm seeing.
Kind of like Pat Riley there with Spolstra.
All right, we'll put that in the rear view. Pacers Cavs is set. The team that eliminated Giannis in Indiana. And here's how I'll ask this question. I'll go to you first, Tom. Who were you more impressed with in round 1, Cleveland or Indiana?
Oh, that's tough. I mean, maybe it's Indiana. I mean, Cleveland boat raced Miami.
Sure did.
Right? And like,
sure did.
We didn't have any faith in Miami. Maybe they won a game. But ultimately, I'm not surprised the fact that Cleveland's, you know, dropping 100, 120 points out of nowhere in 3 quarters, and they're scoring because that's what they've been doing all season. So that's like par for the course. That's what I expected from them. To see the Pacers do it in a well-rounded way, as I would put it, when you're getting great contribution from Siakam, you got some scoring from Turner at times. Halliburton didn't have to do a ton of scoring the entire series. He was just assisting the ball left and right, and you got Nembhard, you got Naismith involved, Ben Mathurin, McConnell. Like, they had a very, very well-rounded effort, and that's what they need to beat Cleveland. So Cleveland is something that I essentially had already written in pen, permanent marker. They were going to win that series at worst 4-1.
Yeah.
And it was going to be them scoring the lights out just because they did that the entire season. That's what they did to teams. They blew them out by 15, 20 points. When they were 15-point favorites, they'd be winning by 30. So I'm not impressed by Cleveland because that's the standard that they have set. Not to say that they didn't do a good job, which they did.
Sure.
So the Pacers, I would say we knew they were going to win that series.
Yeah.
And then how they did it. I thought it was just a very solid effort overall, top to bottom.
Who were you more impressed by, Coach?
I'm more impressed by Indiana because I just thought Miami flat out quit. They quit. And I think that's something where you probably the first one to say that the most overrated thing that I now think in regards of a basketball coach and fan is heat culture. Because that heat culture is, Dwayne Wade in his prime, getting Shaq toward the back of his prime, LeBron James, obviously Dwayne Wade with Chris Bosh, Jimmy Butler who carried you guys, and that's the heat culture. Sorry, and I used to believe it like no one's business, and I was appalled that these guys went out and got their, trying to curse, butts kicked in Game 3 and then worse in Game 4. So because of that, it's automatically Indiana. But Tom made a good point. It's how they did it. The fact that you had 8 guys scoring 8.2 points per game or more. They traded roles. They traded whose collective responsibilities. Yeah, Matherin was always going to be the distributor. But everyone had points in this series where they stepped up offensively. And that's what makes this series so interesting because that's how Cleveland plays.
Yeah.
They beat you by the sum of their parts. And now you have the sum of their parts versus a team in Indiana that's playing the best basketball throughout the first half of the year. Halliburton's playing like a top 20 player in the NBA right now. And then you got the rest of these guys. Yeah, spicy take part too. Halliburton, I hate Halliburton, but I'll give him his props. I really hate his father, but that's okay. That's a story for another time. But I think personally, this is going to be such an intriguing series. And I think Tom's right about what we talked about earlier. I think they're being a little bit too disrespectful to Indiana. I still think Cleveland wins it.
Yeah.
But I think if I can find a good number of Indiana plus 2.5 games, I'll look at that. I think it's 4-2 Cleveland.
So the current odds on Pacers plus 2.5 is minus 140 currently. So I really do like both of these teams. The Pacers I was in on preseason, and that's kind of come back around to being a good thing. But not in what the Cavs did is they ruined heat culture. The whole thing about heat culture. Hold on. Heat culture worked in the play-in. I'm just saying. They're the first team ever as a 10 seed make it out of the play-in.
Yeah, who'd they beat, though?
No. But it worked, right? The first team to come out as a 10 seed.
Yep.
The net rating, here's all I'm saying. I feel like for some reason if I ask people who was more dominant in round 1, OKC or Cleveland, they would say OKC. Maybe I'm wrong about that. OKC's net rating in round 1 was a 19.3, which is crazy. Cleveland's was 33.2. Their offensive rating in a postseason that has been defined by, nobody can score anymore, was a 137.5.
Heat culture.
The Heat became the first team in NBA playoff history to lose 2 straight by 30-plus points, and it happened both games on their home floor. And Darius Garland missed both games.
Tough scene.
I understand you are, for whatever reason now, reveling in Miami's downfall.
Maybe it's because I'm a Knicks fan, but
I'm just saying.
The 90s.
It's 30 years ago. To say Cleveland couldn't be more dominant is just correct. OKC 100% was losing one of those games if Ja didn't get injured.
Okay. But they still won the series 4-1. If that.
No. OKC won it 4-0.
No, I'm saying they would have won 4-1 even
for
if they
sure. My point is, Cleveland put forward one of the most dominant sweeps in the history of basketball, and that to me is wildly.
Riley's retiring.
Impressive.
I'm calling it now.
We'll be right back on SportsGrid.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip? Try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
They've won 7 in a row. They've been dominant at Citi Field. Lindor's been insane. Pete Alonso's been raking.
You know, Griffin Canning, David Peterson, those guys have pitched really, really well. And when you put it together with that lineup, especially like you said, Lindor's been great. You know, they've got the makings of something very special in Queens.
Pharrell, coast to coast, only on SportsGrid.
Fans hate them. Like, kids go to Giant games and they're like, my father forces me to come, or my grandfather was a season ticket holder. Like, no one has fun. It's a miserable place to go.
The Giants' problem has always been over the last several years, and it's been the reason why Barkley never really got off, is the offensive line.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high, but the action isn't just on the field.
Rearranging that roof. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
Just a little flyer, couple 15.5-point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. That's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Betting above the rim. SportsGrid. Coach James Young, Tom Vecchio, Kevin Walsh. You all right? Really had some...
I'm feeling great. I mean, the inner commercial discussions are almost better than what we have on the show.
And what we have on the show is not bad.
It's great. I think we should
bad.
be like, you know, we have the during the commercial break, you could hear what we're talking about.
Nope.
Bad idea.
That's a terrible idea.
Terrible idea. Terrible idea.
That may be the worst takes of my takes all day today.
And it's that's saying
I
something.
mean, you've set the standard so high for so bad takes.
Wait a minute. Wild takes, not bad takes.
Celtics Knicks, where you have allegedly the greatest Knick in the history of
Oh,
Knicks basketball.
don't get me started with this. Oh, God.
This is. I actually want to go to. I want to go to you first on this, Tom.
My top 3 Knicks of all time?
No.
Latrell Sprewell, Allen Houston.
Oh, yeah, I like Latrell. Chris Dudley, Chris Charles.
I mean,
Marbury.
Marbury.
No.
People talk about Marbury being a top 10 Knick of all time. Like, he had the worst season in the history of that franchise.
What about Tyson Chandler?
I mean, his name, not Landry,
Eddie Curry?
not Landry Fields.
Okay.
But the shooter, the 3-shooter.
Steve Novak.
Oh, this tongue double check.
Those are my guys. Latrell Sprewell, Allen Houston, Landry Fields, and Steve Novak.
Yeah, all right. Tom's all-time Knicks starting 5 wouldn't make the playoffs in this year's East.
It'd be worse than the Wizards this year.
All right. Celtics Knicks. Reel it in.
Yep.
Here we go.
All right.
My question. Are you surprised at how big a favorite Boston is on the series line against the Knicks? Started minus 700, climbed to minus 900, settling right now at minus 770.
Am I surprised? No. Do I think that it's deserved? Kind of. Again, this is a situation where we're dealing with 2 different things, like what I believe personally and what the books are doing to, in theory, protect themselves, where they're never going to hang a number that's even a minus 300 number for the Celtics. I think is a little bit disrespectful for what they've done and what they've proven, but it also, again, puts them at a bit of a liability overall. So, with that said, there's the only effective way to bet this would be on the series spread or the series total games or a direct outcome that we expect the Knicks to win one of them at home. Are they going to lose the series 4-1? Is it going to be 4-2? That's the only way I expect, most people to rationally to bet this series overall. I think the line is accurate when it's all said and done. If I had to side with one of you. I'd say, yes, give me the Celtics minus 700. I think that is the play, or the where the line should be. That's not the play. A series spread bet or a series direct outcome would be the way to go about things.
Yeah, I mean, if you listen, as a Knicks fan, let's be honest. The Celtics smoked the Knicks all season.
The Knicks also struggle against good teams.
Right, all season, right. And the Knicks fans are going to turn around and say, well, we didn't have our full team. With all due respect, I love Mitchell Robinson, but he is not the ultimate needle mover in this series. Let's just call it what it is. So Tom is right. It is the series spread. And where can you find yourself value? Because I'm a Knicks fan, and I'm the most unbiased Knicks fan on the planet. Yeah, I said that, unbiased Knicks fan. They are not winning this series. They're not. I'm sorry. Get real. Can the Knicks win 2 games in this series? That's what I'm looking at. So I like the Knicks plus 2.5 games at minus 110 right now. I would not be shocked if this is 2-2 heading back to Boston. And the Knicks literally run out of gas. Because Tibbs is going to play his guys 40 minutes a night. And it's going to catch up to him. Boston will give away a game because they'll shoot it like hot trash from 3, and the Knicks will steal one. And then Brunson probably steals you a second. You're not getting a third and a fourth. Unless Karl-Anthony Towns becomes the Karl-Anthony Towns that's a demon that can give you 25 and 15. I love Cat. I don't think it's happening. So to me, Knicks plus 2.5 games at minus 110 is where I'm looking.
I see it differently. I do not know why everyone just has thrown this Knicks team away. They were built to compete with this Boston group. And each game, they seemingly chipped away at this insurmountable deficit that would come across when they would play Boston. I think the series spread is completely ridiculous. And it is the most I've ever seen a regular season matchup impact the way a series is positioned in the market. There's also a 50-1 number I love in this series. We'll talk about that next right here on SportsGrid.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip, try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
They've won 7 in a row. They've been dominant at Citi Field. Lindor's been insane. Pete Alonso's been raking.
You know, Griffin Canning, David Peterson, those guys have pitched really, really well. And when you put it together with that lineup, especially like you said, Lindor's been great. You know, they've got the makings of something very special in Queens.
Pharrell, coast to coast, only on SportsGrid.
Fans hate them. Like, kids go to Giant games and they're like, my father forces me to come, or my grandfather was a season ticket holder. Like, no one has fun. It's a miserable place to go.
The Giants' problem has always been over the last several years, and it's been the reason why Barkley never really got off, is the offensive line.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high, but the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that rim. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
A little flyer, couple of 15.5 points live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Oh, man, it is a great time here on a Saturday on Sports Grid. It's a Kentucky Derby Saturday?
It is.
If I'm not mistaken. Yeah, we'll get some horse picks before we get out of here. I think we actually did that once in another edition of BAT. This coach. All right, I want to just stick on Knicks Celtics quickly, then we're going to kind of zoom out for the Eastern Conference. So our guys here started hitting the supermarket. Because sometimes that's how you have to shop when you're trying to bet a series. Sometimes you got to go to different supermarkets. Sometimes same supermarket, different aisle, and you can find a better number. So if you think the Knicks can be competitive in this series, over 5.5 games is giving you a better price than Knicks plus 2.5 games. FanDuel is about even money. On DraftKings, it's plus 125. You always want to get the best of the number. I can't tell you every single sportsbook's price.
Right.
The difference, I think, between me and the both of you is heading into the postseason, I picked the Knicks to win this series. I still really believe they can.
Okay.
So I can't tell you my best bet is over 5.5 games and then leave myself vulnerable to losing money on this series where the Knicks win the series. So the simplest, you can get the Knicks minus 2.5 games at 22-1. There's no chance that bet wins, but I just couldn't live with myself being on the Knicks in the series and then losing money on the series if the Knicks win the series. That's kind of where I'm at. Go ahead.
I would say you mean the Knicks win the series 4-1, which puts it under 5.5 games.
Correct.
That's the context that everyone needs.
Yes. I just couldn't. Being on the Knicks is something that very few people rightfully will be on. Even listen, I talk to myself in my notes. I'm probably a little nuts. Even that, I'm like, ooh, this isn't the best selling point as I type it out. That's like I'm writing to myself. It is a tough sell to fully be on New York. I just can't give you over 5.5 games and be like, I lost money on this series because the Knicks won in 4 or 5. I just couldn't live with that reality. I much prefer a Knicks in 7 bet which is like a 16-1 ticket, because I think this will have to be a long series. If I were to just attempt to sell people on the Knicks' chances in this series, if you look in the regular season, something that stood out to me, and I know this will sound unfair, but I know I'll rope Coach in on this.
No boy.
All right, here we go. It's not going to take much.
Jason Tatum was perfect. Jason Tatum did not dominate a regular season opponent as much as he dominated the New York Knicks. It didn't have really a bad game, but the averages over the 4 meetings, 33.5 points per game on 54, 48 shooting splits, 48% from 3. One of the reasons I do not have Boston making it out of the East is I think that this year, unlike last, so much is going to be put on Tatum. Tatum did his usual terrible game 1 thing, but when he came back, games 3, 4, and 5, 36, 37, 35. I mean, the efficiency wasn't perfect, but he was still really great for this basketball team. I am not telling you that Tatum should be the best player in this series, but could Tatum crack the door open for us to go a little bit longer? Because he gives you 2 postseason clunkers, which he usually is good for in a series. Hate to say it, but he is, JY. Yeah. That is where I think the Knicks can start to cut some of the edges. I also just think, and this might sound ridiculous, you cannot build a team specifically designed to beat a team and be this wrong. If this team loses in 4 or 5 games and finishes the season 0-8, 1-8 against Boston when they were designed to beat Boston, I cannot imagine someone being that wrong. And I don't think the Knicks are that wrong. This roster does make sense and should be competitive against Boston.
And I think that's where you can start to rope me in a little bit.
Thank you.
You went and got OG at the trade deadline last year, and you went and got Mikal because you're looking at Brown and Tatum and saying that's how we defend. You go get Cat because you need to be better at the center position, and you have to be able to counter Porzingis and the fact that you can have a guy that stretch out to the 3-point line. So I could see that. It's funny, as I started digging during the commercial break and just thinking out loud, the props market.
Yeah.
And I was trying to find, like, where can I find something? Hear me out. Josh Hart to lead the series in rebounding at 7-1. Because if you really think about it, Karl Anthony Towns has got to guard Porzingis or Horford, who live where? Outside the three. When Josh Hart gets to these moments, he becomes an absolute demon on the boards. Like, he's like Dennis Rodman. I'm not saying he's Dennis Rodman, but like Dennis Rodman, where you're like, yo, here goes the real, I'm going to get out of the way because he may hurt me.
Yeah.
Josh Hart averaged, I do believe, 8.7 rebounds per game versus Boston during the regular season. I think because of the fact of where we're going to play, obviously, Cat outside, I think Mitchell Robinson may get more minutes than we think because of his propensity to play the pick and roll way better. Just look at the drop coverage that he played against Cade in Game 6 on that last possession. Put a clinic on it on that one play. I think Josh Hart, Tom, it's 7-1 to lead the series in rebounding is a sneaky good bet.
I really do like the net now, like we're talking through it. And, as we look through some of these props as we were getting into it, during the commercial, depending on your personal take on Tatum, whatever it might be.
Sure.
When we're looking at the series price for the Celtics and we see a minus 770 now, is there a way to extract value out of the total points scored market in terms of are we betting on a Celtic? Obviously, Brown with the conference final MVP last year. But Tatum is at plus 100 for most total points in the series. And Brown is at 16-1. And that's at least on FanDuel. So if we do think the Celtics win, there's a route to one of them being the series leader in points. And effectively, you are betting on that instead of laying minus 770 or even laying minus 1.5 games or 2.5 games. We're betting on either Tatum or Brown to lead. And that's, I think, at least an interesting discussion.
Tatum is minus 135 to lead the series in points over on DK, so there's a legitimate gap there. The rebound market is an interesting one, JY. But we'll talk about this after a break. Here with you, we're live on SportsGrid Saturday morning. All right, a little audio dropout. We had to just clean that up. We're with you right here still on Pro Basketball today. So just because I was kind of peeling through these. The points market is tough. If it's not Tatum or Brunson, though, that would be stunning. But you can clip value on one of them, I think, right? Rebounds. I faded Cat with Duren against the Pistons or in that Pistons series, which won, but I kind of snuck out of there at the back end.
Yeah.
Cat started to get his rebound going. If you say, hey, Hart out-rebounded Cat, I want to then have a piece of Hart and Tatum. Because I think it means Cat had a bad rebounding series.
Yeah.
So I think you want to be smart there. Assist-wise, Brunson's a really heavy favorite, but likely wins the market. First two games in Boston, I'd love an in-series Brunson price if Tatum gets going on his home floor to start. The bet I made is 50-1. But it's the series threes leader. Kristaps Porzingis. He only played twice against the Knicks this year. He had 5 games where he attempted 9 or more threes. He did that in both games against the Knicks. A 2 of 9 game and an 8 of 13. The threes market can be volatile. You see how different that is on a different book there, Tom? We're taking a little long shot. Kristaps Porzingis back with you after this quick commercial break.
Think that there's something to the fact that they blow all these leads against the Edmonton Oilers? It's like the Oilers can be down 4 goals and they come back like it's nothing.
We got a series now. I think this thing is going to reset, Scott. I think home ice advantage is going to hold true in this series. I think I told you that last week. I'm expecting this. I picked the Kings in 7 before the series started, and it's like plus 700.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
It's so crazy that you get both ends of that spectrum and the narrative trying to be correct in doing so and to make a statement for engagement. You're wrong, you've been wrong, and deal with the reality of the situation.
All of the people that analyze the draft mocked one in the first round, and even could he go to the Giants at number 3 or trade up back in that round. They got Dart, they didn't get Sanders, and the fall was on at that point.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
We're going to get a bunch of upsets. We're going to get a lot of craziness. Didn't happen as well. I mean, over the last calendar year, Sam, I don't ever recall 6 or 8 months of time in sports where the books lost, but here we are.
They estimate FanDuel and DraftKings lost $185 million combined for March Madness. So estimating not just that they didn't have a profitable March Madness, but it was a huge loss for them as well.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune in to Game Time Decisions weekdays on SportsGrid.
We are back on SportsGrid. We're happy to have you. I'll just say, if the setting here today in our studios is anything, the Kentucky Derby is going to get a long shot winner today because it's been a wild day, but it's been a fun day, undoubtedly. We're going to go to tonight's Game 7 next. Just any closing thoughts on some of the setup series, Eastern Conference, anything that we didn't touch on?
Nothing specific, but I always say this about playoff series is like there's multiple ways to skin a cat.
Sure.
And if you were, it leaves you ways to hedge out. Like if I do like the over 5.5 for the Knicks Celtics, there is a chance of like it gets to that Game 4.
Yep.
Or Game 5, we're not sure. We can always hedge out. We can take the money line, the opposite team, whatever it might be. And then taking a team to win implies multiple things. If you are taking the Celtics to win 4-2 direct outcome, that means they obviously cover the -1.5. It goes over 5.5 games. So always try for the best lines. Try and find some correlation between those types of bets, series-long bets that you make, because it does leave you some outs.
I just think I just want these games to start. I mean, I think we're getting competitive basketball at this point. It'll be interesting to see. I want to see, honestly, with Cleveland, what do we get out of Darius Garland? Is he going to be playing Game 1, Game 2? I think that's an interesting take that I think we need to look at, because I think it's going to affect the market, particularly if you get no Darius Garland Game 1, Cleveland wins. Now he's back Game 2. You're going to see that market move even more.
I'm glad you brought that up. But we are going to hit the Sunday games in our next segment. There's a Garland bet I'm considering. We'll do that then. Let's just kind of lay it all out there. Nuggets, Clippers, what do we like? 207 total. 1.5 spread for Denver at home, -122 on that money line. Certainly the type of game, if you like Denver, you're laying the -122. If you like the Clippers, I mean, you're probably grabbing the +104, but I wouldn't hate to have a point in my back pocket just in case. A little bit of a safety net if you can find it. The Nuggets and the Clippers here. Again, Jay, what do you like in this game? What are you betting in this game? Who are you trusting in this one?
I have to go with the home team in a Game 7. I know that they've lost Game 7s in the past, but I'm going to go with the Denver Nuggets on the money line to win this game tonight. I just think they'll be able to find a way to close it out. I'm going to that Michael Porter Jr. over 1.5 made threes, because I just think if they're going to win, he's got to knock down 2. So I'm looking at Michael Porter Jr. over 1.5 made threes. I'm looking at Nikola Jokic over 6.5 points in the first quarter, and I'm going to lay off the James Harden stuff and just keep everything what I have, Tom, strictly on the Nuggets.
Right. Ultimately, I do think the Nuggets come away with the win. That's how I'm viewing this game. But with that said, the Kawhi prop that I already have is Kawhi over 33.5 points plus rebounds. I think that's what will make this game competitive. Now, there are ways to say, like, if Kawhi doesn't hit this over, they are losing this game. Like that, I think is also fair to say. But I do think they keep it competitive. I think we see the Nuggets ultimately win by, let's call it 5 points. I think that would be a fair assessment.
Yeah.
Some late free throws. I think the Nuggets come away with the win. They absolutely cover that 1.5 number. If I think they win by 5 points, whatever it might be. Kawhi himself has a very good game, but the rest of the team, I'm not going to include the hardened narrative, but the rest of the team just doesn't have enough to put the pieces together.
Kawhi, by the way, like under the radar villain to me in this. So I do like when in my pre-series breakdowns, you know, if you like a bet for game one, it probably is going to carry over. And one of that was Kawhi rebounds and assists, as well as Kawhi to have a double-double, which in game number 1 was 9.5 with a double-double coming in at 6-1. He didn't get there. That's fine. We'll play it again in game 2. He doesn't get there. I'm like, all right, maybe I'm off base. And now he's had a double-double in 3 or 4 games. He's gone over his rebounds and assists in every single one of the games.
I was on him last game.
Well, great look. Again, pre-series, I was all about it. This guy, you know, he was able to shake my tail. I like Kawhi tonight, though, to score the basketball, specifically from beyond the arc. Kawhi, when he is on, can be one of the most efficient shooters in basketball, and that's not just inside the arc, but from beyond it as well. And I like him for 3+ made threes at plus 140. But my favorite way to play it is to pair him with Nikola Jokic over 4.5 made combined at plus 120. If you look so far in this series, both guys have had some big games. They actually each shot made 4 in game 2. You get all the way up to 8. But neither guy has made 3 in the last 2 games, right? I think I would be pretty surprised if one of them didn't make at least 3 in this game. That combined made threes market sometimes will really jump out if you find a guy you love, because they can do so much of the damage for you. I had one the other night with Malik Beasley up against, and him and Cat over 5.5, and Beasley made 6-7 threes in that game. I think one of these guys could knock 4 down tonight. You know that they will grab the bull by the horns in this one, and I think that will also come with some elevated volume from beyond the arc.
Yeah, I always like those type of bets just because there's multiple paths that you scored, and it's combined, so it could be a 4 and 1, whatever it might be. So those are always good to find. Obviously, not every book offers all of those. No, and that's always important to note where you're not always. And even if they do, sometimes the lines are dramatically different.
Yeah.
So shop for those, but I like the path. Like, listen, Kawhi's going to hit 3. He's going to hit 4 on his own. You only need that 1 from Jokic or whatever combo you're looking for. It might be.
And it's important for both teams to knock down threes early. I just think it kind of sets the tone here. And Kevin, they have that market on FanDuel, 3x2.
No, don't do this.
3x2. 3x2. Minus 105. Minus 105. No, you're not.
No.
You're not.
Here's what I want to ask you. If you are OKC, forget we'll play anyone. Who would you rather play next round?
That's really tight because it really depends on what you think, how you're going to be able to defend. So to me, I don't want to deal with the best player in the world, so I don't want to play Denver. I'd rather take my chances with the Clippers than deal with Denver because I think Joker can get Hartenstein and Holmgren in serious foul trouble. So I'd rather play the Clippers.
I think the same. We saw OKC beat them in that series. They played back-to-back on the Sunday, Tuesday, both at OKC, if I remember correctly. They won that pretty handily, but I still think the answer is the Clippers, that you want to play the Clippers rather than have to deal with Jokic.
I think Denver actually grabbed the wraparound.
They grabbed the second one. They won the second one.
But didn't the OKC win the first one by like 15?
They ended up extending, it was there. They kind of know how to really pour it on. All right, listen, at the end of the day, could Kawhi outplay SGA in a series? He could. Jokic would be favored to outplay SGA in a series. You want to have the best guy. We'll talk about Sundays next.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip? Try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
They've won 7 in a row. They've been dominant at Citi Field. Lindor's been insane. Pete Alonso's been raking.
You know, Griffin Canning, David Peterson, those guys have pitched really, really well. And when you put it together with that lineup, especially like you said, Lindor's been great. You know, they've got the makings of something very special in Queens.
Pharrell, coast to coast, only on SportsGrid.
Fans hate them. Like, kids go to Giant games and they're like, my father forces me to come, or my grandfather was a season ticket holder. Like, no one has fun. It's a miserable place to go.
The Giants' problem has always been over the last several years, and it's been the reason why Barkley never really got off, is the offensive line.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high, but the action isn't just on the field.
Rearranging that roof. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
A little flyer, couple 15.5 points live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, let's close it out. Great Saturday here. Coach James Young, Tom Vecchio, I'm Kevin Walsh. Betting above the rim, pro basketball today. The NBA playoffs, round 1 is almost over. It will be this week. You'll also see round 2 begin this week. We begin, though, with Houston and Golden State, who are looking to end round 1, even if that is going to be game number 2. The Rockets are favorites at home, JY. Even if you don't have a bet yet, early thoughts heading into that matchup.
Well, it's going to be about the rebounding that I think could be the edge with Houston. When you look at Şengün, when you look at Amen Thompson, when you look at obviously all their players there. I'm looking right now, honestly, at Amen Thompson. I think he's going to play a critical role defensively in this game. I think because if you think the game will be low scoring, that this is someone that's going to have to be on the floor a lot. And I don't know. I mean, I love the Thompson twins coming into the draft. I've just fallen in love with them because I've watched them so much. So I'm on the Kevin Walsh bandwagon right now. Amen Thompson over 7.5 rebounds, one thing I'm looking at. And I'm curious to see. I've gone to Şengün over his rebounds plus assists prop. It's moved up. It was 14.5. It's at 16.5. And I've correlated that with going with Steven Adams under his rebound, which is 7.5. That's one I'm going to look at tomorrow morning, see if that number with Şengün Cup drops down to a 15.5. May jump on that, and then correlate that with taking under with Steven Adams, because I don't think you hit both of them. You got to go one way or the other.
Okay. Right. For me, right from the jump, I think this game is a clear under overall.
Okay.
Clear under overall. We've seen some good things from Steven Adams, and I like what he's doing defensively. We talked about him closing out Steph at the three-point line, staying up there. He's not dropping, but seeing 17 points from him is last night's game is obviously way too many, and the market overcorrection I think is just far too much. So Adams under 8.5 points. It's sitting at -138. At least that I'm seeing on here on FanDuel right now. I think he plays a key role. It's just not scoring. That's just not what he's there for.
I also think you wonder if he's not going to get to the foul line 16 times too.
Right.
I don't know how much you're going to do to Hack-a-Shaq in a game 7. That is something. I mean, that's also part of the whole grasping at straws things that we've talked about. With
Their
Steve
only
Kerr.
defense with Adams is just to get him off the court. But I also think Ime might be like, I'll just let you put me in a bonus. And here's the thing: they also only do it when they're in the bonus, right? So it's a very, but it makes a lot of sense for me. The simple look is just Steph. 5 made threes is -110, but his prop is 26.5. I know it's not apples to apples, but I just can't stop the comparisons of this series to me when they played Sacramento 2 years ago. In the game, he scored 50. He made 7 threes. Okay, so I want the points then. Because I think that might mean that for him, while he'd love to have the three-point shot going, it just means I got to be relentless. I got to make the easy ones. I got to make the tough ones. So my thought right now is the Steph 26.5 is a very real look. I will also be interested to see, they posted game leader markets.
Yeah.
To lead the game in threes. I wonder what his price will be. He'll be the favorite. I just wonder how... Here's the thing. Fred's been amazing, but Fred VanVleet is not... I think everyone could... This good. Fred VanVleet is not one of the best players in the NBA.
It's been his efficiency, and if you really think about Steph, if that's the market you look at, Steph's going to have the attempts. Think about it, right? 9, 9, 13, 8, 9, 16. I don't think he shoots 16 threes, but he's going to shoot 10 or 11 tomorrow.
He might shoot 16. No, I think that is on the board. I'll say this quickly with the Cavs Pacers. If Garland plays, I don't want to waste money, but 8 to 1 plus 800 to lead that series in made threes is something I'm looking at. He did have a lot of volume when he played in the first 2 games against Miami. Halliburton's the second choice. I get it. He still has those empty games. Naismith led the Pacers in made threes in round number 1. I know Gary Trent went wild, but wasn't it like Halliburton was close? Garland at 8 to 1 is an interesting look to me, Tom.
Again, if Garland does play, have to put that caveat out there. Mitchell under 26.5 points.
Okay.
Get Garland. And then, again, it's not to say, but the Cavs have done such a well-rounded job. Also, get Garland back involved in the offense.
Yeah.
They'll get some scoring from Mobley. They'll get a little bit from Allen. Whether it be DeAndre Hunter off the bench, whatever it might be.
2 guys made threes, because I think neither team defends the three-point line great in this series. It is Naismith over 2.5 made threes at plus 158. Same thing with Max Strus over 2.5 made threes at plus 134. There will be a lot of threes, particularly where Indiana plays up and down, transition threes, but the other side defending 3, I think both guys go over the three-point mark.
You like a horse? You like a horse today? Have you seen anything? No?
No.
I'm hearing stuff about this salmon. I don't know. Does this Burnham Square jump off the page to anyone else?
I think the fastest one wins.
All right. This guy Tom's crazy. We
I'm
found
not
that
allowed
out
to talk
today
horse
too.
racing. I only talk basketball.
We'll see you guys next week on SportsGrid.
Your college performance does not relate to the National Football League. It never
They
does.
played side by side with each other, and he wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. That's an issue. That's a major issue.
It wasn't
the
that
best
it wasn't as
quarterback
good as
prospect
Quinn
they've ever
Ewers.
got to Texas.
It wasn't that it wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. It was Quinn Ewers' program, which Steve Sarkisian
Why
made
would it be
very
Quinn
clear
Ewers'
the entirety of the time that Arch Manning was in Austin. So for you to argue that because Ewers is a 7th-round pick, Arch Manning is not that good and not deserving of being first overall is asinine. It is wrong.
I
It is
just told
incorrect.
you he's going to be number 1 overall. My whole thing was I'm
you're
buying
doing
him
your
because
thing now
I
where you
expect him to
double
have a
down on a
decent
tape
season. No, I'm
that
not
is
doing that.
incorrect
The
when I
best
show it's
quarterback
incorrect.
prospect to ever hit college football can't play
He's
over
not,
a 7th-round
there were
pick
two
who didn't even
perfectly
play
rated
good.
quarterback
Stop
recruits
it.
in the
Stop
history of
it.
the sport.
Quinn
Vince
Ewers couldn't
Young
even play at
and
Ohio
Quinn
State.
Ewers.
He couldn't even play at
Vince
Ohio
Young and
State.
Quinn Ewers. Go look it up.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune in to Game Time Decisions weekdays on Sports.